BallxPit is an indie roguelike action game developed by Kenny Sun and published by Devolver Digital. In BallxPit, you throw balls that ricochet around to kill enemies that slowly march down from the top of the screen. If they get to the bottom, they hit you, but you can also get hit by walking into them or getting hit by projectiles that some of the guys shoot. You start with one special ball that has some kind of effect, and a couple of white basic balls that just do a little bit of damage. Throughout the run, enemies will drop experience when you kill them, and leveling up lets you pick between a couple of options of new special balls or passive bonuses, or sometimes lets you level up a ball or passive you already have. The bosses, and sometimes even just normal enemies, will drop these fission swirly things that you can pick up. They're a lot like the chests in Vampire Survivors if you've ever played that game. They can either give you between 1 and 5 random level ups spread across your items depending on how lucky you are, or allow you to fuse or evolve your balls. This is the mechanic that really sets this game apart in my mind and makes it really interesting. Almost any two balls can be fused into one that has the power of both. For example, if I have a fireball and a poison ball and they're both max level, I can fuse them to get a fire X poison ball that inflicts poison and burn to enemies. It basically takes the powers of each and just combines them. This mechanic is pretty cool because now the ball takes up one less space in your inventory, so you basically have extra space for more special balls in the future without sacrificing any of your current power. Some combinations don't fuse though, they evolve instead. That basically means that they make a brand new ball with a brand new effect instead of just combining the effect of the two balls. As an example, the fireball and the earthquake ball can evolve into a magma ball. Instead of just lighting them on fire and causing an earthquake, the magma ball drops a glob of magma on the field that can burn enemies. Finding these evolutions is pretty cool, and I spent almost all my time during runs trying to find these new evolutions, even if it made my build weaker in the long term. Where this gets even cooler is that when you evolve a ball, you can re-level it to max level and then fuse it with another ball. You can even fuse 2 evolve balls in some cases. At some point, I fused my magma ball with a broodmother ball, making a magma X broodmother ball that would basically spawn baby balls that also had the property of magma balls. I also got a passive that made the baby balls light on fire when they hit enemies that were on fire. So my magma ball would spawn baby balls that dropped magma and could be lit on fire, while also lighting enemies on fire. This game's a roguelike though, so once you finish a run, there's some meta progression stuff you have to handle. And the meta progression here is pretty fun as well. During runs, you can find blueprints for new buildings. You can use these blueprints to build different structures in this little grid-based environment. In between each run, you can shoot all your characters out into this world, and they'll bounce around the walls for a couple seconds, giving you certain materials or upgrades depending on what they hit. The structures can unlock characters, give you stat buffs, or just give you bonus resources to build more buildings with. I thought this was pretty fun in concept, and I wanted to spend a little more time doing it, but the fact that you only get one little bounce around between each 15-minute run meant I didn't get to spend too much time with this system. I also think I wasn't really getting the point of the system sometimes. Ultimately, the biggest bottleneck I found was gold, which you can only get from runs. The materials you get from the board aren't useless by any means, but I never really ran too low on them. The buildings that provided characters and buffs were a cool way to implement these features into the game as well, but I basically ended up putting all these buildings to the side as there was no point in having my guys bounce into them once they were already built. Oh, and to that point, to build the structure in the first place, you need your guys to bounce into the building a bunch of times before they actually get constructed, which meant that sometimes I would just build a little box of unfinished buildings and shoot my little dudes into them to get them all done as fast as I could. I didn't need any of the other resources, so it didn't even feel like a waste of my bounce. There's a pretty interesting gear system though, which is how you progress through the game. To face the higher levels, you need to collect gears from the level before it. Each character can only earn 1 gear from each level though, so you're gonna have to go back and beat the level a few times with the new characters you unlock. The characters I unlocked while playing all felt pretty similar though. They each start with a different special ball, but these balls are available to any other character through level up, so they're not really that special, but the characters also get a special passive ability that didn't really change the way I played too much. I think that might just be because I wasn't good enough to really play around the changes, but they didn't really feel game-breaking either. For the most part, they all just played like kind of the same character, except for the first couple levels before you've unlocked a bunch of other special balls and passives. The game uses a lot of the character progression elements from Vampire Survivors, which I think was actually a good choice, since ultimately that's one of the reasons that Vampire Survivors got so popular in the first place. The system translates over to this new-ish genre really well, and I think that's the strength of the game. Each run, you get to create these super powerful weapons from scratch in a way that's super customizable to what your playstyle is and what you get offered during the run. That being said, losing runs felt pretty lame. The same way it kinda does in Vampire Survivors in my opinion. Watching the screen fill up with enemies that keep inching closer is cool when there's doubt about whether your build can handle the pressure. But some runs, I felt like I had no chance of winning, and I just had to sit there and watch as the enemies marched towards me while my mediocre special ball combinations barely made a dent. Winning or losing though, the sound design was so satisfying. Every sound in BallxPit carries a lot of weight to it, and the music hits hard the whole way. The game is super high stakes, and the music feels like it always delivers on that promise. The art style is really cool too. It's a very stylized game, and you can feel the passion that went into creating the environments and the enemies in particular. The environments are gritty and textured, everything feels dark and fantastic. These little gargoyle skeleton guys that sit on what looks like chunks of walls to me were fun to watch marching towards me and always felt good to kill. When there's enough enemies on the screen, they even start doing this chant, which was kind of stressful but made it even more fun to silence them once my build actually got online. That being said, the hitboxes felt pretty clunky sometimes, particularly for the player character. For context, your hitbox almost never matters in this game. Enemies hit you when they get to the bottom of the screen, which has nothing to do with your hitbox, or when you get too close to them for a couple of seconds. But these instances of damage don't really demand a lot of precision. The projectiles that enemies shoot also mostly don't matter, as they get destroyed by the balls that you shoot, which should be pretty much filling the screen halfway through a decent run. The only time that your hitbox actually matters is the boss fights, which are kind of like these bullet hell style levels where you also have to aim your shots to hit a super tricky spot at the same time. The levels themselves are pretty fun, and I think they're a cool concept, but the mechanics of the game don't really get to shine, and the clunky hitbox actually feels relevant. It feels like you're suddenly playing a totally different style of game when you get to the boss, and a lot of the decisions you made before this don't really matter anymore. What matters now is being able to dodge all of these arrows that the boss is shooting at you when you can't even really rely on your own hitbox to feel consistent, which I didn't really like. Despite a couple of flaws, the core gameplay of BallxPit is really solid. If any of this gameplay or description seemed appealing to you, I would say the game is definitely worth checking out, but if you aren't into the art style or the choose 3 roguelike genre, this one's probably not going to change your mind. Overall, it's a good pickup, but not a mandatory play.